Perimenopause is so much harder than menopause. I say this to my patients all the time. Perimenopause is unpredictable, confusing, and really frustrating, especially when you go to see your doctor and they don't recognize that perimenopause is its own beast. In today's video, I want to break down early versus late perimenopause. Yeah, did you know there's actually two separate phases of perimenopause? And when I'm breaking those down, I'm going to tell you a little bit of some clinical signs or clues that you might be in early perimenopause, and then do the same thing with late perimenopause. For the very best menopause advice, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. The channel is blowing up. I am so thrilled to see it growing so quickly. And really, not only is this awesome to see and building this community and answering the questions that you want to hear, but the YouTube algorithm is starting to learn that something hot is happening with this channel. And women are searching across the globe for advice on menopause and perimenopause. So by subscribing, you're telling YouTube that this channel is one of the premier places to get help, support, and advice on all things midlife. If you guys don't already know me, hi, I am Dr. Heather Hirsch. I am the Clinical Program Director of the Menopause and Midlife Clinic at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, where I see patients on a consultative basis. I am also faculty at Harvard Medical School and love teaching all my students, many of whom actually also watch my channel, because a lot of clinicians also glean so much information from what we talk about here. So I am so blessed to have such a wonderful opportunity to help women in midlife. If you live in the Northeast and you want to see me in my clinic, I will drop the number to the clinic below and you can call and see if you can be a patient of mine. I'm also the host of my very own podcast, Women's Health by Heather Hirsch, where actually I try to put different content over there. So there is just so much to talk about in menopause and in midlife that I never get bored. So if you've not checked out my podcast, you can find that also in the description bar below. I'm also a course creator, and for those of you who can't see me in clinic, I live too far, I can't do telemedicine in your state, I highly recommend checking out my course. Now, I have actually revamped this course in the beginning of 2021. It is jam-packed with hours of detailed information. So if you love my YouTube videos or you love the IGTVs I do over on Instagram where I'm at hormone.health.doc, you will love my course. I really take you step by step. I have lots of handouts, PDFs, things you can give your doctor, how to talk to your doctor so that you can be the most prepared. And I also have some mini courses. So if you just want a course on sleep or you just want a course on bone health, you can find those all there as well. I also am really grateful that one of my viewers here on YouTube suggested that I put some links to some of the articles that I talk about. So I am definitely going to do that. I'm going to try and go back to some of my older videos. I have about 30 or 40 now, so I'm not exactly sure where I cited them, but I'm going to try and start doing that for you guys as well so that you can read some of the professional articles and kind of go along with what I'm saying. So thank you so much for all of your suggestions. And before we jump into today's video, comment below, about perimenopause. Do you feel really frustrated? Do you feel really discouraged? Do you feel dismissed by your clinicians and your providers? Because if so, I really hope that this video is going to be really helpful. So without further ado, let's get into differentiating between early and late perimenopause. Now, before we do, I want to tell you some really important points about this. This differentiation is actually a clinical diagnosis. So what does clinical mean? It means that my brain decides whether you're one or the other. And it does that because it's had a lot of experience and has had a lot of time to sort of learn some of the signs and signals, but by no means is this really perfect or 100% accurate all the time. Again, menopause and perimenopause is kind of like looking through without a crystal ball. I can't really tell when certain things are going to happen. There may be some clues, but it's really a retrospective diagnosis. So oftentimes I'll say, in 5 or 10 years, we can look back and say, oh, that's when you went into menopause, or that certainly was a symptom of perimenopause. But as you're going through it, it's really hard to see the forest through the trees. So it's a clinical diagnosis, meaning there's not a lab test that, boom, is going to tell you if you're in early versus late. And the same thing also really applies to the difference between perimenopause and menopause. So the average age of menopause in the United States is 47, but remember, I see patients who go into menopause at all ages. So perimenopause can last 1 to 10 years. Before menopause, the average is probably about 2 to 5 years of perimenopausal symptoms, but they can be very discreet and very subtle. But if you're really in tune with your body, you will start to see some of these changes. Now, labs can be helpful. I did a video that I'll link to as well on how to use your labs to sort of interpret where you are, but I always call labs data points. And that's, again, because so much of this is clinical. So if you journal and if you track and we get your labs, we've got a lot of data to make that clinical diagnosis of, is this early or is this late perimenopause? Now, in general, in perimenopause, your follicle stimulating hormone level, or your FSH for short, is going to be low. And when I say low, I mean less than 35. Menopausal FSH range is usually greater than 35. Often I see it in the high 50s or even 100. And your estradiol level could really be anywhere that day because it's bouncing all over the place. That's the hallmark of perimenopause. You are still making hormones, they're just unpredictable. And that estrogen level is going to fluctuate from one day to another. Now, there really is nothing fancy in terms of check your labs on this day or after you've ovulated or this or that. That's just really useless because, again, labs are just really data, but a lot of deciding if you're in perimenopause is really going to be based on your story, what you tell me has been going on with you. So, hallmarks of earlier perimenopause is when your periods start to become like closer together. So maybe every 21 days, or it's like 21 days, 17 days, 32 days, 17 days. You're finding overall that your periods are becoming like clumped together. And sometimes they're light, sometimes they're heavy, but it just seems like you're always having your period. And that can be really, really disturbing and distressing. Very often that's one of the first signs of early perimenopause is periods that are starting to come in quicker or shorter durations. Now, some women won't have this. For example, if you've had a hysterectomy, if you have an IUD, you won't be able to go by this. So there are some other more subtle symptoms that can tell me that you might be in early perimenopause. One of the things we see first is mood changes. And, it can range a lot. It can be just feeling more down, depressed, hopeless. For a lot of women, it's more of that generalized anxiety disorder, just feeling kind of anxious about everything when normally you weren't really a very anxious person. It can also be changes in memory or concentration. This is really common. And most people kind of miss this one because life is going by, kids are growing up, work is demanding, you're renovating your house. And so it can be hard to notice that you're having some cognition changes, but that can be another sign of early perimenopause. So, what can you do? Well, when I see patients who are in early perimenopause, education and knowledge is really, really key. And I always talk about this, so you may have heard me say this before, but journaling and tracking are really great places to start. If you find that the memory or the cognition is bothering you, definitely try something like a B12 complex in the morning. It's, really simple, nice vitamin to add. I'm a big fan of magnesium at bedtime, just kind of help to relax you so you can get some really good sleep. Sleep's important throughout the whole menopause transition. But as soon as those symptoms start to crop up, I want you to feel like you can handle them, tackle them right straight on. Another thing that people will do, especially if periods are bothersome, because just having that continuous bleeding a lot, is to use either a continuous birth control pill, and by continuous, I mean skipping those placebo weeks as much as you can so that you get your period as less as your body will let you, or putting in a progesterone releasing intrauterine device or IUD, because that is going to help to stop the wonky periods. If it's mood, meditating, journaling, or if you need a mood medication for this season of your life, that can be really helpful because we want you to thrive. We don't want you to say like, I am just going to be super strong and do all this and just keep pushing, because that's what women tend to do. So again, it really is what is your priority and what symptoms bother you the most. Some people want to really go head on and do all the things medically. Some people really want to just take it down to the bare minimum of natural things like focusing on sleep hygiene, meditating, etc. In contrast, late perimenopause is where your periods start to really space out. So maybe they're every 45 days, then they get to every 3 months, then every 6 months, or if you're like a lot of my patients, you get to like 10, 11 months and you're almost at that 1 year mark where you can say it is menopause and you get a period. And it can be really frustrating, and this can go on for a really long time. So late perimenopause is more characterized by longer stretches of not having any periods. This is also where other symptoms very similar to menopause start to come into play. Hot flashes, night sweats, and all the other things, vaginal dryness, which can translate into painful intercourse, more mood changes, more sleep changes, the insomnia, the just waking up, tossing and turning. Now, again, this isn't perfect. So it's not to say that you can't have one symptom from late be early and vice versa. It's not. It's a clinical diagnosis and it's very fluid. It's not a precise thing, but these are some of the hallmarks of later perimenopause. So spaced out periods and traditional symptoms of menopause: hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, all of the things. So what can you do when you're in late perimenopause? Well, I often find that this is where postmenopausal hormone therapy can work really, really well, because those periods have spaced out a lot. And this is a really, long conversation that I have with my patients in clinic, which is how to do that. But it certainly is a myth that you can't use postmenopausal hormone therapy in late perimenopause. Absolutely, you can. And oftentimes it works really, really well because the brain chemistry is just likes those lower estrogen levels better, and my patients tend to do really, really well. Again, I do a lot of IUDs, so I'll link a video here I did on when and how to use an IUD in perimenopause and menopause, because an IUD can be an excellent counterpart so that you just don't have to worry or track the bleeding any longer, because we know your uterus is nice and protected once you have your IUD in place. And again, labs can show an FSH is inching closer to 30, or maybe it's 40, and then it bounces around. But labs, again, another data point. All right, so that was just a really quick overview on the difference between early and late perimenopause. I know a lot of you are really interested in perimenopause topics, so drop down comments below on what else you want to see about perimenopause. Again, please subscribe to the channel. I know a lot of you have been binging and watching a lot of my videos. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But please go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any videos that come out on Fridays. I love your comments and suggestions. I love hearing what you guys want to know about, and I love hearing your experiences. Every once in a while, I'll snap one of them because they're so amazing, and I'll put it over on my Instagram. So follow me there. I'm at hormone.health.doc, where I let you guys weigh in on a lot of these topics. Again, check out my course, because now that you know a little bit, if you want to really, really, really deep dive, which I just would take hours streaming on YouTube, please check out my course. It is so good. A lot of it is focused towards later perimenopause and the whole menopause transition and postmenopause, but it is never too early. In fact, I think the earlier you can learn these things, the better. Again, I also have mini courses, and I just find that a lot of people have found this course to be so helpful, and it's my way of creating a piece of content that I can give to you if I can't personally see you in clinic. And again, I teach you a lot about how to find the right doctor for you that's close to you, because there are many other wonderful menopause doctors out there. Again, thank you guys so much for subscribing. I also want to remind you, if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, you can do that in the description bar below by clicking get the free hormone health guide. So you'll get that as well. And I'm going to be giving you some special updates on what's been going on with me in life behind the scenes. There's some really fun stuff I haven't told you, and that's also where I'm going to be sharing what my new upcoming projects are. So feel free to grab your free hormone health guide and see what I am up to. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please also check out all the things in the description bar below, and I'll see you guys next week for a new video. Bye everyone.